Hey, welcome to another episode of the Influential Experts Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Hicks, and today we're speaking with personal injury attorney Henry Queener, discussing the complexities of pedestrian accidents and the common mistakes people make that wreck their case. Henry Queener specializes in handling auto accident lawsuits and other motor vehicle accident cases. He's recognized as one of the top 100 national trial lawyers, and he successfully recovered millions of dollars for his clients. Henry is distinguished for his skills as both a negotiator and a tenacious litigator, and he's prepared to take cases to trial to secure full and fair financial recovery for his clients. Henry, thank you so much for agreeing to come on our show today.
Thank you for having me back, Bobby. And actually, I'll be in trial next week. So I guess I do go often.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. What do you say?
Absolutely.
All right. Great. So today we're talking about pedestrian accidents and a couple other things. What should I do immediately after being involved in a pedestrian accident?
Gosh, if you're the pedestrian, you're hurt horribly. There's just nothing that can be expected that you'll do because you are just horribly hurt. Now, if you're the driver of the automobile, immediately stop. Immediately come to a stop. Call 911 immediately. That person is going to need immediate medical assistance. Go over there, tell the person you're there. Be careful, trying to touch or help the person. You may do more harm than good. And then other people will probably come over as well to help out. Once that person is taken care of, that person's getting help. Look around you. Look around the scene. Take pictures of your car, where the damage was. Take pictures where your car is sitting on the roadway. Take pictures of whether there is or is not crosswalks in that area, so that later on, if things get changed, we'll know what it looked like at the time.
And this would be a witness that would be doing all this, because it's likely that the pedestrian is.
I'm assuming you're the operator of the car.
Okay.
If you're the pedestrian, you're laying on the ground horribly hurt. There's just nothing that can reasonably be expected of you as the pedestrian. We have to, as soon as you get in touch with us, go out to the scene of the wreck and see what information we can gather. There's very little you can do to help yourself as a pedestrian because you are so badly hurt. We rush out there. We identify businesses nearby that might have cameras that might have captured what happened. And we also identify whether there's traffic cameras in the area that might have captured what happened. We obtain the 911 call center information to see if we can find witnesses, because they would have called 911, hopefully. Those are just some of the things we do immediately after a pedestrian wreck to gather that information, because unlike a car hitting a car, the pedestrian is obviously going to have the worst end of it and be completely incapable of gathering information themselves there at the scene.
Of course, because there's no metal cage to protect them and provide any sort of protection at all. So interesting. What are my legal rights if I'm hit by a car while walking?
Well, as we say, you don't want to be legally correct and dead. Okay. So while we'll talk about the law and what the protections the law provides, being legally right and dead is not a great thing, obviously. So keep your head on a swivel, be looking out. Just because you're in the crosswalk and you're in the legal right to be in that crosswalk, that is not worth your life. If you see some guy coming and it doesn't look like he's paying attention or going to come to a stop, don't stand there going, by God, I'm legally right. Get out of the way. If you are in a crosswalk, whether that's a marked or unmarked crosswalk, and an unmarked crosswalk is the area of the road between two curb cuts. So at any intersection between two roads, while there may not be a crosswalk painted on the asphalt, painted on the road, that is what is called an unmarked crosswalk between the curbs on the side of the road there. So if there's an intersection, at any four-way intersection, there are four crosswalks there, whether they are marked or not. If you are in a crosswalk, the traffic on your side of the road has to come to a stop for you once you are established in that crosswalk. Once you get to the middle of the road, then the traffic going the other way has to start stopping for you.
Yeah. I guess a common scenario where I could see a pedestrian getting hit would be at a parking lot. You're walking to and from your car, you've just gone shopping, maybe you're at the grocery store and you're walking, a driver backs up and hits you. I would say in that kind of circumstance, you probably wouldn't be as devastatedly injured as someone who got hit at a car, that was flying through a red light. But in those instances, does where you're at a parking lot, does the pedestrian always have the right of way, or how does that work?
No, no. Parking lots are very dynamic, complicated environments. People coming and going. There are not designated areas for traffic that are separate from the designated areas for pedestrians. The cars and the pedestrians are intermingled in a parking lot. If you do get hit in a parking lot, sometimes the person who hits you will freak out and will start driving off. Get that phone out and see if you can get a picture of that tag before they're gone, because they might make it around the corner and be out to light and gone, and there you lay. So if you're capable in a parking lot of capturing a picture of the tag of the vehicle, please do that. The next thing to do is look around and see, do you have any witnesses, anybody who saw what happened. Often, I hate to say this, but we have seen a rash of this lately. Elderly people in parking lots really struggle in their cars to navigate parking lots. So please be careful in a parking lot. If you see an elderly driver, they could really be struggling to make it to that parking lot safely. We've seen a rash of that lately of people asking us to help who have been hit by elderly people in parking lots.
Hmm. In an instance where someone does hit you in a parking lot and runs off, and you're unable to find that person and be able to sue that person, or perhaps you do find that person, they don't have insurance, is there any liability for the place of business since it happened on their property?
Probably not. I
Mhm.
mean, probably 9 times out of 10, probably it's not going to be there. But you have what's called, hopefully, you have paid for uninsured motorist coverage, and so that person is driven off. You really, really got to have is that other witness in the parking lot. So when you're laying there, and the person drove off, you didn't get the tag, and someone else comes running over and says, "Oh my gosh, I saw what happened." Please get that person's information, that witness's information, because that witness seeing what happened can be really helpful in accessing your own uninsured motorist coverage. And so, in the situation you're talking about, I wouldn't naturally turn to the business. It's unlikely to find the business did something wrong, but it is likely that the person who hit you did something wrong. And so, if we have a witness who saw this, what we call John Doe driver, then that will help us access your uninsured motorist coverage to help you out.
Yeah. How does one determine fault in a pedestrian accident where there's multiple parties involved?
It's just very fact intensive, and every case is different. You ask the questions, you as the pedestrian, what were you doing to take due regard for your own safety? Were you looking around? Were you paying attention? Or, we're all guilty of it. Was your head buried in your phone and you weren't really paying attention to your surroundings? Same thing with the driver of the car. Is the driver of the car engaged in a phone call or doing something else in the car, fiddling with the radio? Or is the person backing out of the spot or making their way through the parking lot, paying attention, dedicating their full time attention to driving? So it's very fact intensive, and it basically boils down to how much were you paying attention and how much was the other person paying attention.
Hmm. What are some of the legal consequences of jaywalking and getting hit by a car?
Well, if you're jaywalking, then that means you're not in a crosswalk, either marked or unmarked. And so you don't have the same legal protections of being in a crosswalk. If you're in a crosswalk, marked or unmarked, then cars have to come to a stop for you. If you're jaywalking, then the burden is on you to make sure the traffic sees you. So be very careful if you're jaywalking. Number one, when you're stepping off the curb, head on a swivel, look right, look left, make sure that there's not a car right there. If you're coming in between cars that are parked on the side of the road, again, lean your head out and look up and down the road before you just step out from between two parked cars. out into that roadway. We do help people who were hurt jaywalking. Generally, the people we help hurt jaywalking were doing a great job of paying attention to what they were doing and head on a swivel, and were all the way out in the road, there to be seen, making their way across the road. And the driver of the car was not paying attention to what was in the roadway up ahead, namely a pedestrian.
Yeah. So are there legal consequences to the jaywalking and, like, for instance, getting fined from the government or from the police? Like, could the police fine you? Could the police write you a ticket? Could, there be additional consequences to that outside of just getting hit by a car?
Depending upon what city or town you're in, you can get a ticket for jaywalking under the local ordinances. There is not a statewide, ticket that you could get for jaywalking, either Tennessee or Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
But each town may have a jaywalking ordinance that you could be in violation of. The most important thing about jaywalking, again, is that, remember, it's all on you. You need to make sure you're really doing a great job of looking around and making sure you can safely get across the road. At nighttime, even more so. Gosh, be so careful at night jaywalking. It can be very difficult for drivers to see you as you come across the road.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Henry, I know that you have your main office there in Nashville, Tennessee, and I know Nashville is a big population, with a lot of tourism that comes there, and with the big population and with a lot of tourism, you see a lot of those scooters, those electric scooters that people are riding around. I don't know, they have Lyft, they have Bird, and I know there's a lot of accidents that come as a result of these scooters. People pulling out in front of traffic, or maybe they're kind of riding on the edge of a street and they get hit by a car. I'm guilty of riding those scooters myself. I think they're a lot of fun, and in a lot of cities, you can't ride those on a sidewalk. We went to Italy recently. We were riding those on a big and they only ride on a big sidewalk. You got to ride them on the street. And so even though you're riding, really close, off the edge of the street, on the edge of the street, it's very easy to get clipped by a car.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sort of circumstance, what do you think, how does that play out?
Well, first of all, yes, our office is right downtown Nashville, and we see the scooters in front of our office and everywhere else, and people enjoying them. But number one, don't be intoxicated in operating a scooter. You need to keep your wits about you. You need to be looking around to what you're doing on a scooter.
Sorry to interrupt, but if you were intoxicated on a scooter, could you get like a DEI or a DUI for that?
On the scooter, no, you cannot.
Okay.
The scooter is going to be treated like a bicycle. And so in Nashville, we do have an ordinance that you cannot operate a bicycle on a sidewalk in a business zone. All of downtown is a business zone. You're technically not allowed to drive the scooter down the sidewalk. The scooter belongs in the bicycle lane or in the roadway. But be careful, like you said. I mean, you are supposed to be down there in the traffic lane if there's no bicycle lane, and people going by can clip you, catch you with a mirror on one of those scooters. What I often see is people will go back and forth between the sidewalk and the street. Again, you're supposed to be in the bicycle lane or in the street on them. People will also come down the street and then all of a sudden transition into the marked or unmarked crosswalk, that area between the two curb cuts at intersections, and will just come flying out into the roadway. Look, you treat that scooter like a car or a bicycle. Come to a stop, figure out if you have the light there before you proceed. And so scooters can be a lot of fun, but they treat them just as you would a bike, and bikes don't go on sidewalks in downtown Nashville. A lot of cities just don't allow the scooters at all. I mean, there too many people have gotten hurt misusing them by just flying out into traffic off of in crosswalks. So great things. They're a lot of fun. Just be careful and treat them like a bicycle.
How do insurance companies typically handle cases where both the pedestrian and the driver share fault?
We see that all the time, that you divide up the fault. Who's at fault? And it's a discussion with the insurance company about what did the driver that they insure do wrong? what did our client do wrong, and what are those percentages. And hopefully we can agree on what those percentages are and settle the case. If we
Hmm.
can't, then we have to move forward. Usually the most important factor in deciding who's at fault and how much each side's at fault is those witnesses, because generally the person who's jaywalking is going to explain what they were, all the effort they took to be safe. The person driving the car is going to say the jaywalker just appeared in front of me, I never saw them. And then the independent witness becomes so important to say, how fast was the car going? What did I see the car doing? Did I see the person who was jaywalking really going to great efforts to be safe?
Yeah. I see this happen all the time. I'm sure you do too. But a lot of times people don't have time. Maybe they've contacted an attorney and they've got like immediate needs that need to be met now. And so they turn to, a crowdsourcing site such as GoFundMe to sort of raise money to help with expenses. Can I still pursue a lawsuit if I've already received funds from a GoFundMe campaign?
Yes, you
Okay.
can. But you really should talk to an attorney before you set up that GoFundMe page. In
Yeah.
Tennessee, if you raise money on GoFundMe, all you may be doing is reducing the amount of money you'll later get out of your own uninsured motorist
Interesting.
carrier. So, in your example earlier about the pedestrian in the parking lot gets hit and the person drives off, well, we have what's called a John Doe, and that John Doe is an uninsured motorist. And say we have a witness who will establish there was a John Doe who drove off, then we can make a UM claim. But the UM, the uninsured motorist coverage, is reduced by all money you receive from all sources. And so if you established a GoFundMe page and raised, say, $3,000, all that did was reduce by $3,000 the amount of money you're going to get out of your own UM or uninsured motorist coverage. Also, with GoFundMe, keep in mind you don't want to accidentally commit fraud. If you
Hmm.
say you're collecting the money to pay for your medical bills, and then say you collect $5,000 for your medical bills, but you're able to negotiate with the medical providers, such as the hospital and doctors, and they're going to take $3,000. Well, you still have $2,000 left over. Well, you told the people to give money to pay your medical bills, and that has now happened. You need to think about what's the next step, and you better talk to a lawyer. That $2,000 is not just free found money. You represented you were going to use it to pay medical bills.
Interesting. Interesting. Do insurance companies ever deny cases if they've seen that you've raised money through GoFundMe?
I have not seen that, no, but I have seen UM carriers want to get the particulars of how much money was raised to that GoFundMe account we saw, because we do get a credit for that. And boy, that stinks. I mean, the client was very upset that members of their congregation gave money to their GoFundMe page, and all it did was reduce how much that insurance company had to pay out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's common. I was talking to my son yesterday about what a fender bender was. And a lot of times, I've been in fender benders before where it was just a bump and you both get out of your car, you look at the car, anyone hurt, no one's hurt, any car damage, no one's, there's no car damage, and you just kind of go on your way. Um, a lot of times you could be in a situation like that where you feel fine. There's no car damage that you can see, and then couple days later you start feeling severe neck pain or something like that, right? Or some sort of health complication comes from that, and you've already kind of walked away from it. In a situation where someone might be bumped, someone might be bumped by a car backing out of a grocery um, parking lot, and they feel fine. They fell down, but they're fine. They brush themselves over, but then later they learn that they have some sort of broken bone or something that resulted from that. Is there any sort of statute of limitations for filing a pedestrian accident claim?
Well, in Tennessee, it is going to be 1 year.
Okay.
Um, in Kentucky, you can make legal arguments that it could be longer than 1 year, but I would proceed in Kentucky as if it is 1 year. So in Tennessee, it's 1 year, period. In Kentucky, it is probably going to be 1 year. You better act like it's 1 year and go see an attorney. Again, if it is some minor event like that, still, take pictures, get pictures of the person's tag, get pictures of their insurance card, get pictures of their driver's license. We can so quickly gather this information with the camera function of phones now. Even if it's a minor thing, even if it's a car on car, two cars, minor fender bender, get out, take pictures of the damage to the other person's car, the area where the two cars came in contact, even if you don't see any. See if you can get a quick little picture up underneath the car to, any supporting struts under there. And then picture the tag, picture of the driver's license, picture of the insurance card, just to be sure that later on, if that person actually did feel hurt or was concerned they got hurt and was making a claim on your insurance or their own insurance, you've got information. You got information about what damage was done and what insurance they had and who they are.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, I believe that we could talk on the subject for hours, but really that's all the time we have for today. Henry, thank you so much for agreeing to come on today's episode of the Influential Experts podcast and share your invaluable insights on pedestrian accidents. For listeners, we hope you found this discussion informative and insightful. And if you did, please let us know by liking, commenting, and sharing this episode with others. And if you live in Colorado, Kentucky, or Tennessee and have been injured in an accident and you need representation, visit queenerlaw.com to schedule your free consultation with a personal injury attorney today. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.